Happy Wednesday night. Welcome to Deep in the Plus. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys, as always, for being with us. We appreciate it. And if this is your first time to Deep in the Plus, this is the TV show. It's a YouTube show where we go into the Disney Plus catalog and we look at a movie or a TV show and we talk about it. And tonight I am lucky enough to have with me the wonderful Desi. How are you?
Hi, doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So tonight we're going to be talking Marvel. We're going to be talking about Echo. You and I were like, well, what can we talk about that's coming up? And we talked about maybe we could do Echo or maybe we could do What If Season 2. I feel like What If Season 2 is a little bit harder for us to talk about in one show. I know that we tried in Season 1 to like isolate each of them in something we called episodes. But Echo seemed like a better move, and quite honestly, I'm very excited to talk about this one. This is Marvel's first, what we call Spotlight. When it came up and said, this is a Marvel Spotlight, I was like, what the heck is that? And so, because again, we have like the Marvel one-shots that are like Werewolf by Night or the Guardians Christmas special, these special presentations. And then we have the Marvel series, and now we have Marvel Spotlight. So, I don't know. It's 5 episodes. They dropped all at once. I want to talk about all that kind of stuff. If you're watching and you haven't watched Echo before, we're going to have some spoilers, so come back when you've seen it. But we're not going to talk a lot about the story. We're just going to kind of talk about it in big picture, but there's a lot of spoils ahead. So, let me go back to Marvel for a second. Desi, you and I did a watch-along with a couple other folks for Moon Knight, which was actually our biggest watched show to date, which is just nuts to me because I feel like not a lot of people talk about Moon Knight, but I feel a lot of
I
comparisons
love it.
between Moon Knight and this. I don't know how you feel about it. You're gonna think about
I
that.
don't
I hit you
know.
out of left field. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I'm sorry. I didn't really feel like it was like Moon Knight at all. Not to say that I hated this one, but I loved Moon Knight.
Well, here's why I feel like, I mean, Oscar was probably your boy and you were probably like excited about him being in there. But I would say though with this one it feels like it's kind of separated from the rest of the MCU. I guess in that way is how I'm saying it's
Oh yeah.
related. It's
Okay.
it's its own
Okay.
story, its own world that we don't really know, and you've got like the back history of the Choctaw tribe. At the same time, you have the back history of like where, Moon Knight and his powers came from. So I feel like in that way, we're hearing the history story and the current story of the character at the same time. So that's why I'm comparing them. And again, it can kind of operate in a little bit of a bubble. So if you did you prepare for Echo by going back and watching Hawkeye or by going back and watching any of the Netflix series, or were you just like, let's just see what this is about?
Um, I did not fully go through and watch every single episode of Daredevil again, but I did, refamiliarize myself with Kingpin. But no, I did not go back and watch Hawkeye. I'm sorry, I liked Daredevil better as a show, so that's why I went back and rewatched that one just to
Okay.
prepare for this one.
Well, so I feel like I need to go back over the falls. There is this history of the MCU, and I think I've talked about this before with like Harry Potter. When a new Harry Potter movie would come out, I would do my homework. I would go back to Sorcerer's Stone and watch all the way through, so I was ready for whatever was next. I started, I used to do that with Star Wars, but then now we're all over the place with Star Wars, and the same thing with Marvel at the very beginning. It's like, hey, let me go back and we'll watch Iron Man and Hulk and Iron Man 2 and work our way up to watch Avengers. But now there's so much in the MCU, it's kind of hard to do that. But I think in this case, you didn't really need to do that. However, if you were a fan of the Netflix series that we're on, and so that's the Defenders series, which was Daredevil and Punisher and Iron Fist and Luke Cage and AKA Jessica Jones, all of these shows were kind of were leading up to making a little universe, sort of a street level universe, which included, of course, Daredevil. We don't meet Echo back then, but we meet Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. I am a freaking huge Mungo fan of Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, and I said on Twitter, I was like, "Tell me a better Marvel villain." Honestly, like, I mean, tell me one.
Doesn't exist.
No.
Doesn't exist. He's the best. Although I will say this is my second favorite Marvel role of his. My favorite is still when he was Thor in Adventures in Babysitting. But yeah, I love him. He's great.
I love how you make that like a thing. It's not a thing. It's not. It's not.
It's
I get
such
it.
a thing,
But you know what's so funny is go back and look at him then, and you look at him now, and it's like he's
right?
unrecognizable. I just watched
How's it the
the
same guy?
right. I just watched the Kevin Hart movie called Lift that he has on Netflix, and in it, Vincent D'Onofrio's in it as a guy who's like he's like the disguise guy in this like crew that they've put together, and I'm like. How is that Kingpin? How is that the same guy?
Wait,
Kingpin looks
he, I
ginormous.
watched that movie. I don't even remember
You
him
didn't even know
being
he
in
was
it.
in it? He was the
No.
guy playing, he was the
Wow.
disguise guy. Like he was checking out the beard to see if it would work, and he was the guy that
Oh my
mixed up the
gosh.
cane. Yeah, like my favorite Vincent D'Onofrio ever is the Egger um, uh, character that he plays in Men in
How
Black.
did I
Or
not
that,
realize that was him too? Oh my God.
it's like she's like it was like he was wearing an Egger suit. Yeah, that was him. Water in sugar water. Yeah, it's just I don't know. Anyway, he's amazing in this as Kingpin. Kingpin for life. He comes back in this. That's the big spoiler here, right? He comes back in this. If you watched Hawkeye, in the end of Hawkeye, Maya, who is Echo, goes and off camera, which of course, duh, off camera, she shoots him. And we hear like she's there. She just found out that Kingpin was responsible for her dad's death, and so he's her adopted uncle. And she meets him in his alley, and he's like, "I knew you'd find me." And then they kind of pan up, and you hear the gunshot go off, and you assume, okay, he's dead. But of course, you never assume Kingpin is dead. And then he shows up in this and he's got, like the bandages over his eye. And then by the end of it, it's just like he's had all this work done. So he's just like good as new.
It's just
So
fine.
I guess,
Just
yeah,
got shot in the
sure.
head. No big deal. No big deal.
No, yeah, yeah. You just get up and you just walk that off. I mean, you don't ever have any problems with that. So I was watching some other reviews and things of Echo, and one of the things that they said about Kingpin is like he always ends up losing, and to make him the big baddie, he needs to win. He needs to have a win. And I think that, and we'll talk about this in a second, where this is going afterwards. Maybe he gets his win, but he does seem to continually fall short. He gets pummeled by Daredevil. He gets pummeled by Kate Bishop, and then he gets shot by Maya, and then now in this one he gets like mind zapped. Which again, we got to talk about
And
that.
yet he's still so intimidating.
Right. He's just so big and huge and scary, and I love it. We have a super chat from Jungle Cruiser. I loved Echo. The intertwining of her choices and her family history was amazing. The finale had the most powerful episode of any Marvel show to date. Thank you, Jungle Cruiser, for the super chat. We appreciate you. Yeah, I cannot go off enough about Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. So glad that they've merged these together. But again, let's take a step back and say that like with the MCU, we started off with the ABC TV series. I don't know if you watched any of those. Um, there was the Agents of Shield, and there were the Inhumans and Agent Carter, and they've kind of said these are not canon. I know they've reintroduced some things as canon. I can't remember if Shield is or not, but Inhumans was kind of brought back into canon because Black Bolt was in the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness movie, so I guess it is. And then the Daredevil series and all of the stuff from Netflix was kind of brought into canon when they brought Matt Murdock into Spider-Man Homecoming or Spider-Man Far From Home.
He's a
Nope.
really good
Spider-Man No
lawyer.
Way Home. That one. Yeah, he's a really good lawyer. And so one of the things is like, okay, it's all part of the same canon, but we introduce Maya Lopez as the bad guy in Hawkeye. So again, all of these characters have kind of merged together, but the way they've set up this show, I don't know that you had to watch all of the stuff from Netflix, which is
No.
now part of it, and then Hawkeye
Yeah.
to do it. I did go back and watch Hawkeye for reference, but then I realized that afterwards they show a lot of footage from Hawkeye. You don't really feel like you need to, right? So you didn't really feel like you
Yeah.
lost anything?
No, I feel like they showed the parts from Hawkeye and from Daredevil that were necessary to understand what was going on. Other than that, like they showed the stuff when Kingpin was young and he murdered his father. Like, you knew all of that stuff, and you saw the stuff from Hawkeye that involved Maya and her dad. You didn't need all of the other stuff. I didn't need to see Rogers the musical to understand what was going on here. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn down another Rogers the musical scene just for kicks and giggles, but yeah, wasn't necessary to watch all of Hawkeye to watch this show.
Are you a comic book person? Did you read any of the comic books?
When I was younger, I was all about the X-Men, so the X-Men are the only comics that I really read.
So I guess my reason for bringing that up is that the Echo character was created for Daredevil in 1999, and the character in the comic is not the same character we're seeing portrayed on the screen. I mean, it's very similar. I mean, they have she was part of, I think, the Cheyenne Nation, and and Maya is part of the Choctaw Nation. Um, so there was a Native American representation there. She was deaf, so that is accurate to it. But she didn't have hadn't been didn't have the amputated leg in there. But her power in the comic book was she had a photographic memory of to be able to pick up other people's moves and powers and things like that. So that was her echoing her opponent.
Like
In this,
Taskmaster.
yes, exactly like Taskmaster. Yes. So that was her power, and now in this one, it's that her power comes from the echoes of the past, the echoes of her past people, and they kind of like they hint around to it because every episode is the history of one of her ancestors mixed in with her modern day story.
It
You and I have
does.
reviewed a lot of Star Wars stuff that does that, where it goes back, like Andor goes back, Boba Fett goes back. Was that disjointed for you, or did you like seeing that happen? And then what else were you going to say?
No, that doesn't bother me at all. It did make me feel like, okay, well, if she has all of the powers that all of her ancestors before her had, then that means she's got her mom's healing powers. But she couldn't heal her mom. She couldn't heal herself. Rob, have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Oh boy, howdy have I. Um, no, so here's we're not talking about that tonight. Here's the thing though. Um, I don't. I love that some of the stuff is the same as Echo, but I don't know why it couldn't have been the same. Alaqua Cox is very good. She's very good in like martial arts combat scenes, so I feel like she could have been that character, that version of Echo. So I don't know why it had to be this echoes of the past thing. That's the only thing that disconnects me from the comic book part of it, is the echoes of the past. And I saw them heading to that, and we watched it all. My son and I watched it all in the same night. Like, we just sat down and plowed through it. It's only 5 episodes. They dropped them all at the same time. We plowed through the whole thing, and as it was like getting near the end, I was like, oh man, that's what they're gonna do. It's the echoes of the past. And I think it maybe started with her flashback to her mom and the bird. But yeah, I saw them doing that. So I don't know. It's not awful. So a couple new things about this series is one is it had a TVMA rating. Did you think it needed one?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Just
So
because
the
of the
reason I
Kingpin
did
beating the
not
crap out of
watch,
that dude?
I did not watch all five at once. I watched, one at a time because I have little kids and there is no way I would show them this show. I would not have this on in front of them. They've seen WandaVision, they've seen Loki. I would not show them this one because it's just too violent. Like shooting people in the head and you see like blood spray. Like, no, absolutely not. And I wouldn't show them Daredevil either, but I love Daredevil. So, that's why we just watched one at a time. And also because I don't like binging. I like seeing something and then like thinking about it for a little while and coming up with ideas and theories about what could happen next. So,
Yep. Uh, Neko says the showrunners thought that the powers were dumb and that's why it was changed. Okay, then pick a different character. I don't.
I was
I
just
don't
thinking
know.
maybe they thought that it was too similar to Taskmaster, and that person was already in Black Widow.
I mean, there are a lot of characters with similar powers, War Machine, Iron Man, that I don't know that we necessarily that would be a problem. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess that's the thing. Um, So that was the first thing, is it's the first TVMA series. The second one is that they dropped it all at once. I feel like, short of, maybe, I think that this is the first one that was dropped all at once, right? Unless What If season 1 was dropped all at once. I can't remember. What If season 2 was dropped one day at a time. And so this one was dropped all at once, all 5 episodes, and it only had 5 episodes. So most of the series have been 6 to 10 episodes. And then it's also this Marvel Spotlight. So here's the definition that Brad Winderbaum of Marvel gave for this. A Marvel Spotlight banner means that it gives us a platform to bring more grounded, character-driven stories to the screen, and in the case of Echo, focusing on street-level stakes over the larger MCU continuity. So basically, we don't need to have like the super Star-Lord powers here, because this is like ground level, which again kind of feels like those Netflix series, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I did get a lot of Daredevil vibe. Daredevil was the only Netflix one that I saw. I think I started watching Punisher, but I didn't quite get into it that much, so I didn't finish watching that one or get into any of the others. But yeah, it did have the same kind of street level feel of that one.
Yeah, Care Bear says I watched all 5 over a weekend and watched the breakdowns from New Rockstars in between for extra info, since I know nothing about the character. Yeah, honestly, I feel like that a lot of the stuff from Echo, to me, sort of played like a movie, I guess, and maybe that's, sometimes I feel like they do and sometimes they don't, these series. But it sort of felt like it kind of played all together. They were short episodes, so it didn't seem too much to watch it all at once. I definitely get what you're saying, and you and I have talked about the pros and cons of binging or dropping all episodes at once, or having them, spread out. Like Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson's 8th episode just dropped yesterday, so that's over. But it was one at a time. Gave you time to talk to your friends about it. Maybe gave them time to catch up to you. So yeah, I totally get kind of taking some time in between. So it was 5 episodes. It was Marvel Spotlight, and it was TVMA. Also, timeline wise, this is weird to me, because this is set 5 months after Hawkeye, and Hawkeye was Christmas 2024. So this is May of 2025 when this is happening. So they're ahead of us now.
No, it's in the future.
It's in the future. Yes, exactly. So yeah, weird things happen. But I liked a lot of things about the series. I liked the directing of it. Some of the fight scenes especially felt a lot like the Daredevil fight scenes from the series. That one shot of him down the hallway is very similar to some of the stuff that she did. The fight in the skating rink where they throw her through all the machines, so much damage done for no particular reason. But he threw her into the claw machine, and all that goes down. I didn't feel like that the guy who was after her seemed to be useful to the story. I feel like there was so much going on story-wise, between explaining the flashbacks of each of her ancestors, and like where she was from, like how she got there growing up, and then her relationship with Kingpin, and then her reconnecting with her family and how complicated all that is. It seemed like there was a lot going on, and they kind of rushed through some of it. That's just my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I felt the same way, that it felt a little rushed. I don't know if it was because it was 5 episodes and maybe it would have benefited from being 6 episodes, but it did feel like they tried to cram a whole lot in. It was like, they tried to cram in the story about, her family. They tried to cram in the story about, her relationship with Kingpin, and you've got the Choctaw stuff, you've got the disability stuff, like a lot of things trying to all wedge into one story.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and honestly, I guess there's a lot of the stuff with Echo that I'm just like, she's a very complex character. I know that Neko had hit me up earlier about like the ASL part of it. So, the fact that that the sign language is that they delved into making sure the sign language was on point and correct was, I think, a big part of it. And it's something that she was upset about when it came to Kingpin, is that he never really took the time to learn, and then he comes up with this software that allows him to be able to speak to her in sign language without having to learn it, and then she's upset about that. So I really honestly, I appreciate the ASL part of it. I appreciate the fact that they were very true to the Choctaw Nation, and that all of these things are are genuine and real when we're looking at this series. So again, a lot of different stuff that they pulled together, but again, it makes it so complex. It makes it so complex. It makes you feel like you need to go back and rewatch it a couple times.
Yes, but I haven't.
But you watched it once. That was enough.
Yes.
So, recently there has been a feeling overall that Marvel has been in decline. That, that there's a lot of stuff that they're directionless. And I feel like this spotlight thing kind of makes it like they're giving themselves permission to go and not be all connected anymore. Which, is that a good thing?
I think so. I feel like, She-Hulk might have benefited from not trying to be part of the big main MCU, and we've got to pull in Bruce so much and then pull in the Scar thing at the end. Like, just let it be its own thing instead of trying to connect everything together. And yeah, you can have little things here and there that weave in so you realize it's all part of the same universe without necessarily being like, "Ooh, look at us. Oh, everything's so connected." I don't know. It feels almost more like they're doing it out of obligation rather than because it tells a good story.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
And I felt like, you know, maybe what was, oh my goodness, what was the one with Samuel L. Jackson?
Oh, the
Secret
Secret
Invasion.
Invasion.
Secret Invasion
Ugh.
just tried too hard, and
Yeah.
failed miserably.
No,
Um,
I don't disagree. Yeah, the
so
Secret
I
Invasion
like
was painful.
I like the spotlight idea where it's like it can be its own thing, but still part of the main, still part of the universe without having to try to weave everything together.
Yeah. I with She-Hulk, we never did a review of She-Hulk, but I don't disagree. I mean, I do disagree with you. I feel like that its whole bit was how it connected in to the greater MCU, kind of like there was supposed
But
to
then it
be
was so
cringy.
it like with the, fourth wall breaking. So
I didn't love
like
that part.
that
I
didn't
didn't love that part. But
it didn't
that
feel
was
like
how
it's part of the same universe
but that
when
was how
she does
She-Hulk
that.
was. But that was how She-Hulk was. The comic book was very tongue in cheek like that. So, but again, I feel like that it was like, okay, in this universe, supervillains need lawyers, superheroes need lawyers, and so like that to me was like, okay, that's kind of a cool thing. Same thing is that there was a show they were supposed to do about the Department of Damage Control, which they've teased a lot. It was a big deal in Ms. Marvel. It was kind of peppered into Spider-Man, this Department of Damage Control, but it was supposed to be sort of like a half-hour sitcom. The people who clean up all the mess after all of the superheroes, and it never came to be. But I mean, there's throws to it in Avengers Campus because the trash cans say Department of Damage Control, and so I think the lawyer thing is kind of part of that. These little offshoots that they could have. I think they kind of messed up Daredevil in that series. But I feel like he came back in a big way in this one. I think the fact
He was
that
a
he
bad A in this one.
so good, so good. The fight scene between Maya and Daredevil I thought was great, and the fact that they didn't overuse him in it just to show kind of her history of there was a connection between her and Daredevil at one point that looked like it happened during the blip, which would mean that he wasn't blipped, that he was one of the people who was still around during that time. So I liked the Daredevil thing there. I thought that was pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing Daredevil. Was it Born Again or yeah, yeah, I think it's called Born Again.
Do
And he
do we
he
think
he.
Vanessa was flipped?
Do we think who?
Vanessa, Kingpin's wife.
Oh, I don't know. They don't really get too much into that in this one. I remember seeing in the, I mean, it's the main reason for Into the Spider Verse. Um, so you know, I it definitely is part of his storyline. But in this one, he just seems like he's just a sad man in general. And that his relationship to Maya is what grounds him a little bit, and he has a kind of a father-daughter relationship with her, and then feels betrayed by her when when she shoots him. But I think up until the
But he
events of
forgave her.
I know,
I
right?
mean, he must really love her. I don't know if I could forgive somebody who shoots me in the face, but hey, to each their own. He's just got a bigger heart than I do, obviously.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think that he just desperately wants to have that connection with her, and didn't, I guess, piece together that originally that she would finally find out that he was the one responsible for her dad's death, which then brought her into his life. So in the comic books, I think he also kills her dad, but then like promises to take care of Maya as he's killing him. So anyway, I love seeing this character, but here's another thing that's a flip about this character is that when we see her in Hawkeye, she's the villain, she's the bad guy, and so we find out that she's just driven in a weird way on this one. So we
She doesn't seem like she's a great. If we're being honest, she doesn't seem like a good person.
no, she
She
doesn't.
enjoys killing people. Like the first time she went in and killed somebody, she like when you hear her like crack that guy's back and you hear his heartbeat stop, she was like, "Yeah, this is awesome. I'm just gonna shoot everybody in here. This is great." I get that she's the protagonist of this show, but she's still not a good person.
I was gonna say, is she the anti-hero? Is that what her role is?
I mean, at least Daredevil like doesn't want to kill anybody. He just, wants to knock them out.
Okay. We have a super chat from the Trauma Factor. Says, "Hi Desi. Oh hey Rob." So, so
Hi.
hi, the Trauma Factor. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. If you guys haven't already, give us a thumbs up. Helps people to find us. And so I honestly, I'm not going to ask you any trivia. Usually about the halfway point, I ask you trivia. I'm not going to ask you any trivia about this one because I feel like it was kind of all over the place with it. But when this opens up, we're learning about her history, and we learn about like her cousin Bonnie, and she's growing up on this reservation and they're very close. And then after her mom is killed, the grandmother is like she wants the dad to go away, and when he does, he takes Maya with her. And so there's this like this kind of feeling that Bonnie has that Maya has abandoned her, which I don't agree with, because it was one of those things where it wasn't really her choice to do that. She didn't do
Right.
it on her own. Now, I guess she could have
She
come
should have been
back
upset
before
with
now.
Grandma.
Yeah, exactly.
She should have.
But we don't get upset with grandma apparently.
Grandma is upset that her daughter died, which, I mean, obviously, yes, I'd be mortified if that happened. But on the other hand, she pushes the dad away to take Maya away. What does she think is going to happen to her granddaughter? She knows that her son-in-law is involved with the mob and not a great dude. He literally told her basically he took care of who was responsible for the car crash. She thought that it was going to get better if he took Maya away with himself and she had no positive influences. I mean, given Maya's father figure, well, her father and her father figure of Kingpin both being dangerous, violent men, how did we think she was going to grow up, Grandma? You should have tried to fight for custody, not push her away.
You should have tried to fight for custody. The Marvel episode where Grandma fights for custody. That's
If
really what
Grandma
everybody's
fought for
looking for.
custody, Maya would have had a much happier life. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I guess. I don't know. That seems a little bit weird. Um,
That's
so
a
let me.
monster.
I mean, but the tracksuit mobster and gives her a great life. Let me ask you something sideways on this one, which is about Maya's costume, her hero costume, because in the beginning, she's wearing like the leather outfits and she's got like the gun holster thing on, and I think she looks pretty cool. I don't think she needs to have the superhero costume. In the comic books, she's doing something like this. So she's got the the
She
handprint on
looks
her
like
face, which
Psylocke,
was supposed to represent, like, apparently she had her dad's bloody handprint on her when he died, and so this is supposed to be
like Finn.
representative of that. Yeah. Uh-huh. But now we see her in this thing. um I don't know that I love this. And Alakwa Cox has had a kid. I don't know if the uniform was different because maybe she was pregnant at the time. Don't know. But the uniform, I get where they're going with it. They're trying
Oh,
to
she
bring
was
together
pregnant.
the pieces of the tribe. But and so now in this particular case, we're seeing her ancestors. We're seeing the different like the woman on her, like her left behind her, that's her mom. So we're seeing her ancestors behind her in this particular scene with this costume. Again, I don't love the costume,
I
but I
love
get that it's
the original Choctaw's costume. That one's beautiful.
yes. Yeah, and again, no shade about any of that. The one other thing though that I wonder about this is, in this scene, I'm confused as to how she takes her power and gives it to the rest of the family.
Maybe it's just that they all, they're all part of the same bloodline, so they all have it dormant in them, and they just didn't realize it until then. I don't know.
Could be. Really kind of takes place in a vacuum. This one does, and other than Kingpin, we really don't have a lot of other people, from the outside. Echo, it's not like, and I guess Daredevil. Daredevil's the other one. Charlie Cox being in here, so no relation to Alakwa Cox, by the way. Um, but anyway, this was a one shot. Like, this is 5 episodes and done. So, do you think we'll ever see Echo again?
I mean, she could play a cameo. Daredevil is getting a new show, so I'm sure she'll play a cameo in that at the very least.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm sure we'll see her again. I don't think this is the last of her.
Well, speaking of the
No
last
one's
of
ever
it,
really gone.
true, because literally, uh, um, Kingpin was shot in the face and he came back. Um, so anyway, he comes back and he comes to her, and there's some weird scenes like the one where she pours the wine out. I don't really know what the deal was with that. And then he gives her this eyepiece like we were talking about that lets him communicate with her, and she ripped that out and threw it down. So
I would have
obviously
kept
not
it.
right. It was pretty cool, a pretty neat thing to help her out, I thought. But
I'm sure it would have helped her with other people, not just Kingpin, to know what is going on around her.
yeah. Then the other thing that happens is that with the Kingpin at the very end of it, we see him on his plane. He's getting ready to go, and then he sees that New York needs a mayor. And so now it looks like he may be running for mayor. And at that point, I'm like, yes, I want more Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin in my life. This could be where we're going with Daredevil Born Again. This could be something that runs for the MCU, kind of like a Lex Luthor thing running for president in the DC universe. I'm excited about that. How do you feel about him being the mayor?
Yes, yes, please. Didn't you just say that you wanted Kingpin to get a win? What bigger win than being mayor of New York City? You know, he's not just in Hell's Kitchen anymore. All of New York will be his dominion.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. After every episode of a Marvel series or TV movie or a or an actual movie, they seem to bring the character to Avengers Campus. I don't think we saw Echo show up at Avengers Campus.
If I had to guess, it is probably very difficult to find somebody who knows sign language and is American Indian and kind of looks like her, of the right age range, look, height, all that. I just think it's going to be harder to find because you can't
So
have that character
not
and
speak sign language
not
or
have sign language. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. So you're just saying it was a casting issue, probably that they couldn't find somebody that would fit the bill for this,
Yeah.
which I guess is a good point about Alakwa Cox in general, is that they found somebody who could act. This was her very first acting job, other than apparently a background scene in a high school play or something. Her very first acting job, and she's fighting in it, and she's, which again is key to the character, and she knows, and she's deaf, and the amputee part, again, not part of it, but she can still fight with, with the leg. So, and is Native American, like you said. So it's like how did they
Is
find this? Somebody that could do
is
it and
she
do it well.
Choctaw?
No,
Because you
not
said
Choctaw,
that.
but she's
Oh, because I was going to say maybe that's why they changed her from her comic book character was not Choctaw. So I thought, oh, maybe they changed it for a Lockwood Cox, but you're saying no, she's not Choctaw either.
uh yeah, I don't believe she is. I could be wrong on that, but I don't believe she is because she was born in Wisconsin, and I think that's more of a Oklahoma based. Grew up in
Algonquin.
the Menominee Indian Reservation. So yeah, she's not. But again, I even so, it's a miracle they found somebody who checked all those boxes, who was Native American, who was deaf, no sign language, can fight. Amazing.
Is a
So
pretty young woman. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So good for them for being able to put all that together. So I was looking again at the list of the series that have been out. Secret Invasion, as we mentioned, bleh. Loki season two. You and I reviewed Loki season two, and think that one we gave it thumbs up. What If season two came out right around Christmas. One of the episodes was the Christmas episode, and then on January 9th, all of this dropped. We don't see another Marvel Disney Plus series until Agatha Darkhold Diaries in what they're calling late 2024. If they don't bring that out before Halloween, they're missing an opportunity, I feel like, which is that Halloween would be perfect, but it just says late 2024. And I assume
Maybe
that
they're aiming for Halloween, but they don't want to pigeonhole themselves into that.
because Disney does everything on time. Yeah, you definitely, there's been some hangups with the writers' strikes and COVID, and the actors union. So like the SAG-AFTRA, but I feel like that there's also been some, some statements from Kevin Feige and from Bob Iger that said, you know what, we're going to slow down, and we're going to rewind, and we're going to get this right. And
Please.
Daredevil Born Again is that. Daredevil Born Again had a bunch of stuff shot, and they were like, no, 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 stop. This is not what we wanted to do. I think like Foggy and Karen were like killed, and they were like, no, 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 we're not going to do that. So they went back to the drawing board on some of the stuff for Daredevil Born Again. So that's still slated
No.
for Marvel to release that in 2025, to be announced. But you got Marvel Zombies, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is animated, Eyes of Wakanda, which is like a series of stories from Wakanda, and Ironheart. Those are the next things on the list. But Eyes of Wakanda, Agatha, and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and Marvel Zombies. All four of those are set for 2024 to be announced, but only Agatha is like listed as late 2024. So
And
I mean,
it's had like four different names since they originally announced it.
yes, it has. And then I think in the MCU, we're not going to see anything until we see Deadpool. So, I mean, as far as the movie theaters go, so I mean, it's kind of going to be a little bit of a dry time for Marvel at this point. So I feel like if it's a good time to go back and rewatch all the Defenders stuff on Netflix. You can watch everything again. Watch Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Daredevil and Punisher and Jessica Jones and the Defenders. Just watch them all, and then that'll get you ramped into to watching Agatha when that comes out. It will have probably no connection to anything, but it is all canon, so you might as well watch it. Okay. What else do we want to talk about here? I don't really feel like, I mean, again, the music, was pretty true to, it was mostly the Choctaw references and things like that. Is there anything else in here that you want to talk about that we didn't talk about already?
I can't think of anything that we missed. But Biscuits was my favorite character. I loved him. I thought he was so funny.
Biscuits was your favorite character. Okay.
In this show, yeah. He just he seemed like somebody I would be friends with.
And he was so afraid of Grandma. He didn't want anything to happen there, so he was so afraid of Grandma. So
he felt like the most genuine, real character in this show.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And again, we didn't get too detailed into the actual series shot by shot, but we want to talk about the big parts, which were like, Daredevil and her powers and how they differ from, the comic books and, the representation that was here and how well they guided through all of that. I would like to say that we're going to have coming up next Wednesday, if you guys will come back and hang out with us, is the Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo with Patrick Hackett. He's going to be coming back and talking about that on February 7th. If you missed it last week, Maleka and I talked about Dumbo, and then the week before that, Allison was on talking about Mrs. Doubtfire. So go to deepintheplus.com to catch all of these reviews, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Also, don't forget, we had Park Center this past Sunday night. We've got another Park Center coming up this Sunday night. We are still live on WDWNT.TV, so come join us for the live entertainment. If there's anything, again, we're going to be talking about some big stuff on Sunday with Park Center with Epic Universe a little bit. Kind of get out of our zone a little bit with Epic Universe, but I definitely think it's worth talking about. And then a couple other things. So come join us 9 o'clock on Sunday night for Park Center. But now, I got to ask you this. Desi, you watched all of these episodes. You didn't study ahead of time at all. So I got to ask you, would you recommend this series?
I don't know for just the average person if I would recommend it. If I'm if you need to watch one MCU TV show, this is the one you need to watch. I don't know if I can say that. But if you've watched all of, Daredevil, Punisher, and you love that kind of show, then I would say yes. I'm kind of waffling back and forth because I don't think I would recommend it for everybody. I feel like you've got to be a specific kind of person to want to watch the show, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Okay. I would honestly say I don't think that it takes any background at all to be able to watch this show, even though I rewatched Hawkeye just for that and realized again what an amazing show to me Hawkeye was. I loved the introduction of Hawkeye to Kate Bishop and then all of the Ronin stuff and introducing Echo and Kingpin being back in that universe, and I really loved Hawkeye. I could go on and on about that one. Echo I think can exist in its own box. It's a 5-episode easy watch, and I think it's a neat story to be told. So I would recommend it to anybody, even if you are not a huge Marvel fan. This may be something that you would be into and would enjoy. So definitely let us know in the comments what you guys think. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We appreciate it, and also don't forget to come back again next week for Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, and then the week after that we're cooking up something big because Deep in the Plus is going to be live on Valentine's Day. So there is something in the works, and we would love to have you guys come and join us and be our Valentine. It'll be cute. You'll love it. Desi, thank you so much as always for being with me. I appreciate it. And everybody else, I hope you have a great week. We will see you next time.